Hello, my name is Veronica McCulloch, and this is my IEP meeting assignment. So what I was required to do was watch an IEP meeting and decipher what I thought was important and how we got to make his goals, and get to know a little bit more about him. Also using the MAP strategy as well. So both components of these will be discussed during this meeting, during this presentation. How did they collaborate? This is very important. Everyone had a voice during this collaboration. The people who were impacting Jacob's education were there at the IEP meeting, such as the school psychologist, the principal, mom, Jacob himself, the SPED teacher, private tutor, paraprofessional, and general education teacher. Everyone was there, which is really essential to being a true IEP team. Then you all work together and you can all voice your concerns. Every person was given an opportunity and chance to talk and voice their concerns and their opinions, and it was a positive and inviting environment. How did they allow the team to better understand Jacob's needs? Basically, the school psychologist was there and gave her evaluation results, which showed his academic weaknesses that needed to be addressed. Each person voiced their observations and their concerns, and the MAP meeting that I'll show you a little bit later on allowed information to be gathered from parents, teachers, and paraprofessionals. How did they identify strengths and needs for Jacob? Well, they discussed his evaluation results with the school psychologist who did evaluations on him to see where his strengths and weaknesses were. Teachers and parents voiced his strengths and weaknesses, and Jacob voiced his opinions on what he's good at and needs to work on. He loves math, music, his teachers, and his paraprofessional. His scores for math, it was a 205, which is higher than the average, um, I believe third grader, and his reading score was an 80%, which was slightly below normal. How did they allow the team to get closer in developing an annual IEP document? Well, they created the map as a team and also with Jacob. Jacob and the team were both working together to voice his strengths and his needs, along with his dreams, his hopes, and his goals. Every team member was there and a contributing member to the IEP team. Nothing is worse than when you have an IEP meeting and the people you are having the IEP meeting with don't participate openly in the discussion about the student. Here is what the MAP meeting actually ended up. This is the result of the MAP meeting. So they talked about his dreams, his goals, his supports, his strengths, and his needs, and we tied that all together. Everyone was able to give their opinions, and they went into super detail about everything that he was needing and that he was good at. How did his dreams, identified and discussed at the MAP meeting, become part of the IEP? Well, if you look at the dreams section over here, he talked about becoming a superhero, close friendships, being included, being better at reading and writing. He likes swimming. He wants to be married someday. He wants to be able to initiate conversations, work on his speech, have passion for other topics besides just trains, being an engineer, social skills with no bullying from the other students, play dates, and vocational training after high school. So those things being identified led to an IEP goal about his social emotional goals that was addressed, working with peers and raising his hand. So because those were addressed in his dreams, then they were able to realize that this actually really needs to be a part of the goal, because they said that that was very important to them and to Jacob, that he have good social skills. Also, they talked about doing a lunch bunch where he could pick a student to come play games with, to socialize with, so that he could improve his social skills. They also incorporated social skills into the reading goal. So they would pull him into a smaller group, and then they would talk about various reading subjects. However, it would also be tied to social skills. So it's not just a small group working on reading, they're also working on his IEP goal of social skills. Identify and describe the parts of the MAP meeting I believe were essential to making the IEP. When I looked at this and I was making his MAP form, I was looking at his strengths, his needs, his goals, and his supports. So from this MAP form, we addressed so many different areas. We were able to identify what he's good at, what he needs help with, the goals that we ended up, they actually ended up writing the goals based off of the MAP form here. So he had a reading goal, a social behavior goal, and a fine motor goal. All of those, they did realize that he was really good at math and he was actually testing above average. So that was something that was put in his strengths. And so obviously it did not need to be made into a goal. And also the supports that he would be getting. So small group, social stories, which is part of social skills, behavior, um, role playing, graphic organizers, visual schedules, organization skills, OT, and they said they would be getting him some scissors that would work for him. And warnings about changes in his schedule. So all of these things were addressed as part of the MAP meeting. And then they did make it into the IEP. Pretty much everything there was addressed. How did the MAP meeting improve the IEP? Well, it allowed for all the concerns to be addressed and making something that can be seen in the home to remind Jacob of his goals. So they even said they were going to put this up in his room so that he could see it. That way he's reminded of his goals and what he's working for. They want to be planning for his future. I think as far as the dreams, especially, talked about vocational training. And I know that he's in the younger grades, but in the higher grades for secondary, they start doing transition goals. And so this can even play a part in that. And also, you just get the whole picture here. This is Jacob in a nutshell. So you should be able to look at this and realize, oh, yes, these are definitely his strengths, 100% his needs. And then the dreams are what are we working towards? And how are we going to support that, especially for the goals? That's how we knew what goals needed to be made based off of his strengths, knowing his strengths and his needs. Compare and contrast the MAP meeting versus the IEP meeting. Now, one thing I noticed when I was watching the IEP meeting, they both did introductions, they both did strengths. However, in the IEP meeting, they went over his cognitive levels, they went over his health history, his social emotional skills, what he likes to do for rewards. They discussed his actual disability and what it was, the types of assessments that he would be taking. And then they went over the goals, accommodations, and comments and concerns. Now, the goals, accommodations, and comments and concerns were also part of the MAPS form. So the IEP is a little bit more in depth. So there you're going to talk more about what is his disability and what does that mean. You're going to be really breaking down basically his health and what led him to possibly have this disability. The cognitive levels, which helps you decide where his needs really will be. Describe the process I believe fostered the identification and development of the IEP goals and benchmarks. So I noticed, I just wrote this down in my notes. So the cognitive levels being 115, being good with visuals and high vocabulary, that meant that he really needs some visuals. If he's successful with that, then that needs to be part of the IEP. If he that means that we could reach those pieces could also go into other areas of his IEP. So visual schedule, using visuals and teaching him reading and math and social skills and all the things, and then discussing his test scores and how he showed weaknesses in reading. So they really stressed that he was behind in reading, so there needed to be a goal. Also, social skills interactions and input from and observations of teachers and educators, they all put in input that he needed some help with social skills. So he plays parallel with his peers, so he may not be interacting directly with them, um, but alongside them, but not really necessarily interacting with them. Also, that's at like recess in the classroom. He didn't really enjoy social interactions, working in groups. So that was a great goal to make for him, being able to raise his hand, wait his turn. Um, Discussing his disability was a good part of the IEP process, because knowing the student's disability can really help you be able to know what kind of supports they might need. Um, because some students do well, like autistic students, some of them have extreme strengths and extreme weaknesses. Just like we saw with Jacob, he's really, really good at math and he's very passionate about math, but reading, he's like, not so much. So it's very important that you discuss the disability and how that will affect him learning certain subjects too. And addressing his fine motor needs, he needed special scissors because he was left-handed. That's very important to him that he be able to use scissors in the classroom. Also, pencil grips. Those types of things are very important to make sure that they are able to participate with their peers.